What is up? And today we're going to get into the decline of the NBA ratings, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on what's transpiring there. But before we get started, I just want to tell you guys to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share this with your friends and family, and to continue to support my channel.
Big as the Super Bowl.
Look, I'm gonna just start with this. I love the NBA. I've watched NBA basketball for 26 years. I love NBA basketball. You know, I grew up, I caught like the latter end of Michael Jordan's career, his last year with the Chicago Bulls. So I never saw Michael Jordan at his prime. And so I started watching basketball around that time. And, the guys that I watched growing up was NBA players like Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, Chris Webber, Reggie Miller, and then, LeBron James got in the league. And, I guess the peak of my NBA fandom was with, LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, Chris Paul, Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, as an Atlanta Hawk fan, Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, Al Horford, Jamal Crawford. Like, I can go on and on and on. And so, my basketball fandom was centered around those individuals, those basketball players. And I loved it. I enjoyed watching NBA basketball and, the slam dunk contest. I watched Vince Carter and Jason Richardson and Josh Smith and Amari Stoudemire. And even just recently, I guess it was 8 years ago, we saw that fantastic slam dunk contest with Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine, right? And so I think the NBA is awesome. I think it was awesome when I watched it back then. And look, I still think the NBA is awesome now, despite the many qualms and complaints that I see people have about the game, whether it's people shooting too many threes and how the analytics have just forced the NBA's hand as far as, we take 40 to 50 threes a game and how that's not a great product, and how, kind of like the hand checking is kind of gone out of the league. And, do you see teams playing faster, having a faster pace? And, look, I think the NBA has evolved, to be honest with you. I think the NBA has gotten smarter in how, teams are wanting to play. I think the athletes today are just better compared to the athletes that we saw, 20 years ago. And so I think the NBA in general has evolved when it comes to the style of play. Like, I personally enjoy it. And I enjoy the three-point shots. I enjoy how fast teams play. I enjoy the one interesting thing I've noticed about the NBA over the past maybe like 5 years or so is 20-point leads in the NBA. They're not safe. They're no longer safe. Like 20-point leads in 2024 are like 10-point leads 10 years ago. And so teams can come back from big deficits a lot quicker. Like, I was watching the Atlanta Hawks Minnesota Timberwolves game last night. The Hawks were up 21 points in the first quarter against Minnesota. They just started off hot. Everyone was making threes. Everyone was making plays. And Atlanta got up 21 points. And within a span of like 7 minutes, Minnesota came right back, and they actually were leading at halftime, 55-52. And it's because Minnesota was able to just drain a lot of threes and play fast and they were able to come back quick in that game. And that speaks to just, the pace of play, the willingness to shoot threes. And so I look at that, and I think it's fun. I enjoy it. But again, the NBA ratings have taken a downturn. And so there is somewhat of a problem with that, right? Like, everyone probably doesn't enjoy watching NBA basketball the way that I do. And so I think there are some factors when it comes to the decrease in ratings. And I think the one factor when I look at the decrease in ratings is this. I personally, and this is just my opinion, y'all don't have to agree with me on this, but I don't think the NBA has done a good job of marketing their best players, specifically American-born players. You look at the best players in the NBA today, and most of them, maybe even all of them, are international players. The best player in the league right now is Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is from Slovenia. And look, I'll be honest. I think if a random person saw Nikola Jokic in person, I don't think that person would know who he is. I don't think many especially Americans, a random American person probably wouldn't know who Nikola Jokic is. They would just look at this dude and think he's some tall, semi-bald, big white guy, right? And so you just look at it. Like, Nikola Jokic is like, he's from Slovenia. You look at the second best player in the league, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's from Greece. And then you look at Luka Doncic. He's another guy. He's from Slovenia. You look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's from Canada. You look at Victor Wembanyama, the player that was just drafted just a year ago. He's from France. And so your top players are international guys. Like, the best American-born player right now today is Jason Tatum. And when I look at a guy like Jason Tatum, like, he doesn't have much personality. Like, he doesn't sound like he's not a guy who's super outgoing. Like, I think people just look at Jason Tatum from the outside, and I'll be honest, when it comes to Jason Tatum, I don't even know if a random person would look at Jason Tatum in the street and know who he is. And so I look at it from that standpoint, and I don't know if the national public would get a hold of who some of these players are. And I think that speaks to the NBA's and their lack of marketing. And so, like, you look at the best American-born players. Who are the best American-born players right now? And I'm not even gonna mention like LeBron and Steph and Kevin Durant, but I'm just talking about younger players that are American-born. I mean, we're talking about Jason Tatum. We're talking about Anthony Edwards. We're talking about Donovan Mitchell. We're talking about, even though he's later, he's late in his prime a little bit, Anthony Davis. Like, there's not a lot of, I love Trae Young as an Atlanta Hawk fan. Like, I love Trae. But if we're going to be fair when it comes to Trae, like, I don't think the national public looks at him as like a top 5 to 10 player. And so that kind of takes the marketing aspect out of, Trae. And so it's just, I feel like the NBA in general, I don't think they do a good job, or they've done a good enough job of marketing the younger star American-born players. And I think as a result of that, the NBA is in this position where we're so dependent. Even right now, the NBA is so dependent on players like LeBron James and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant to just carry the mantle of the NBA. And I feel like in about 4 years, when in all likelihood Steph and LeBron and KD are retired, I think it's going to put the NBA in this position where, like, who do we market? Who's the next American-born player that we can market that fans can gravitate to? And I think it's kind of hard to find that guy, because you look at the international players, though they're the top guys. Like I said, Jokic and Giannis and Luka and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I think the guy that I think that's going to be the best player in the league in 2 to 3 years that's going to surpass all of them is Wemby, Victor Wembanyama. I mean, did y'all see this guy the other night? The guy, 7'4". He had a game where he scored, 38 points or something like that, or 42, and he hit 7 threes. And this is a guy that's, the other night he had 10 blocks in the recent game. And so you're talking about a guy who can block shots and shoot threes and dribble and do hezzy pull-ups and score at the rim and dunk on people. And he's 7'4" with guard skills. Like, these are the best players in our league right now, international players. And I think it's just going to be hard for Americans to fully gravitate towards those type of players. I think Americans want an American star to come to the forefront. Who's going to be the face of the league in that run? Jason Tatum, like I said, I think Jason Tatum has the talent, but I don't know if he has the personality. And quite frankly, I don't know if even though he's a very good player, I don't know if his game is sexy enough for the viewing public, right? And so that's the issue with that. Anthony Edwards, you love his personality. You love his charisma. But, I love his talent. But I don't know if his game at this moment is up there with those guys, those international players that I just named. Could he get there? Maybe. But, right now he's just a talented scorer, compared to, and who's kind of unpolished when it comes to his playmaking abilities and all that other stuff. And so it's hard to find the young American top dog superstar that's going to carry the torch when the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and the Kevin Durant's retire, Chris Paul to a lesser degree. It's just hard to find those guys. And I think that plays a part into why I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of a downturn in the ratings in the NBA. And I think the other factor in all this too as well. And I don't know who brought this up, but someone kind of also brought this up. The majority of people who watch NBA basketball are millennials and zoomers. Guys that were born in 1980 to 2012. Basically guys that are, 18 to 36. Or basically guys that are kind of in their, late teens to maybe late 30s or early 40s or whatever. So it's a lot of young people that watch basketball. And the one thing I've noticed is, like, not a lot of people that are in that 20 to 40 range are watching games on ESPN or watching games on TNT. We have access to YouTube. We have access to Twitch. We have access to different types of apps that we can watch basketball, that we can watch NBA basketball. We see people kind of live stream, stuff on the internet. And so you're not seeing as many people watch games on the standard networks the way that we might have used to see 10 years ago. And so I think that also plays a part in it. Like, nowadays, you see people, they rather go to YouTube and they rather watch highlights of, like, what a player did. That's how they get their, basketball information. I think that plays a part in it. People don't want to watch full games all the time. Especially with basketball that comes on during the weekdays. Like, people are busy. People don't have the fortitude to watch NBA basketball every single night, especially the guys that are, millennials and zoomers. Guys that are kind of young. People have easier resources to watch games and watch highlights. And so I think that's also played a real part in the NBA ratings. Whereas you compare that to the NFL, guess what? NFL football comes on Sundays. And so on the weekends, people can just go to church and eat at restaurants, and they can just sit down on a sofa or go to a bar, and you'll see a TV. Whether it's at a bar or you can just go home and you can just sit on your sofa and you got NFL on Fox and CBS and you can watch football that way. And so just the fact that you can just watch sporting events like the NFL on weekends when you have the time and the resources and the opportunity, I think that also plays a part in it as well. Like people would it's easier to watch an NFL game because it comes on weekends. It's not like now there's Thursday night football and there is Monday night football, but the majority of games are on Sundays when it comes to NFL. And so I think that helps a lot when it comes to the ratings in the National Football League compared to what we see in the NBA. Whereas in basketball, basketball is played every day. NBA games are on every day. There's really not a day that you're going to miss that there's not going to be basketball on. But at the same time, it's like when there's a game on the weekdays, people work, people got school, so it's hard to stay busy a little bit. And also at the same time, like I mentioned before, there's just a lot of apps and different resources that people use to watch NBA games. They don't just watch it on television. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Twitch. You can go to the internet and go to different NBA stream websites and watch games. All of these resources are available. And nowadays, people just go to YouTube and they just look at highlights and see, they see, when Victor Wembanyama has 50 points. Let me type in Victor Wembanyama's name and look at the highlights. Or they can look at a highlight and see if Steph Curry scored 40 points and he hit 10 threes. Or if LeBron had a triple-double, or if Jokic had 60 points, or I'm just making up examples. But people can go to YouTube and type in names and look at that type of stuff as opposed to just watching the game full time from start to finish. And so I think that's also had an impact on the NBA ratings. It's just a lot more resources to watch games now, as opposed to watching games regularly on ESPN or TNT or NBA League Pass. People don't want to do that now, it seems. And so, in general, like when it comes to NBA basketball, I don't think in my opinion, I don't think the change of the game has made that much of an impact. And look, I'm sure there are people that hate how the game is played. I'm sure people that want to see them take more mid-range shots and it's too much threes and layups. And look, in my eyes, I think the people that are complaining about that are just old heads. Those are just people that are in their 50s and 60s and they just want to romanticize over, the 90s or the early 2000s. And like, I get it. But in my eyes, I love this new NBA. I love the 3-point shot. I love teams playing faster. I enjoy it. I love the fact that teams can come back from down 20 points in a quarter and make a game interesting. Like, I love it. I like these new players, the new talent that's coming in. Like I like Nikola Jokic. I like Luka Doncic. I like Giannis and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Victor Wembanyama. As an Atlanta Hawks fan, I love Trae Young. I enjoy watching him. I know people probably don't mention Trae Young with those top guys in the league, but I enjoy watching him play. I enjoy uh the new talent that's coming in. Like I enjoy watching the Boston Celtics. The this new version of them jacking up 53s a night. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think the NBA right now, I might be on an island on this, but I enjoy this new NBA, and I enjoy the analytics, and I it's evolved. It's evolved. Like you look at, the way people look at stats now. People go to NBA.com and they look at, offensive rating and defensive rating and points per possession and 3-point rate and all this other analytical stuff that people look at to get data from to determine how good or bad their basketball team is. Like before, you just go to NBA.com. We just look at, is this team, how many points per game is this team scoring? How many points per game is this team scoring? And, and sometimes like this new age, basketball and this information that we're getting, I enjoy that people have gone deeper into analytics to find out, new things about opposing teams and players. And so I love this new NBA. I enjoy the new NBA, but at the same time, I also think there are some new ways that I think the NBA can improve. And, and look, when it comes to the NBA ratings, there are some things that I don't know if there are some things that I don't know can be corrected. And like I said earlier, the idea of, the resources that people have to watch NBA basketball, I don't know if that portion can be fixed in the NBA. But I do think the one thing that could be fixed with the NBA is I do think they could do a better job of marketing some of these younger athletes. Like, to me, when I look at the concern I have about the NBA, is really that. It's just like, how can the NBA do a better job of marketing these American-born players, these younger American-born players, like the Jason Tatums and the Anthony Edwards and the Donovan Mitchells and, Trae Young to a lesser degree, or, De'Aaron Fox. Like, some of these guys, like even coming in next year, Cooper Flag, like he's the guy that people are trying to pigeonhole into being like the next great American player. Like, how can the NBA do a better job of marketing a player like him coming up? And so I think that's something that the NBA is going to have to do a better job of. Or can they just figure out a way to get the American people to gravitate towards these international players? Like Luka Doncic and Jokic and Giannis and Shea and Victor Wembanyama. So I think the NBA in general can do a better job marketing these players to the American public. And, if they can do that, then maybe the NBA ratings can creep up a bit. But, in general, I love the NBA. I've loved the NBA for 26 years. I still love the NBA. I still enjoy watching it. I love the evolution that is taking place in the NBA. I enjoy the increase of 3-point shots and the fast pace. I just enjoy basketball in general. I love basketball. I played it when I was younger, and I love it. I love basketball. The styles, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't, the lack of mid-range shots that teams take, it doesn't bother me one bit. But those are my thoughts. That's my thoughts that I have about the NBA right now. Do y'all agree with me? I would love to love for y'all to, comment on my thoughts, But that's all I have for today. And I want to wish all of you guys a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I hope y'all, spend some time with y'all friends and families. And I wish y'all Happy Holidays and a Merry Christmas.